Hey guys, this is Bill Overs Jr., and you're listening to Without Your Head Horror, the station of decapitation. Keep your head. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the station of decapitation without your head. I'm still Nasty Neil.
That would make me terrible, Troy.
And we're joined by Kristin West, and she's in a bunch of movies we're going to talk about. Very cool to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be on your show.
Our
Very
pleasure.
cool. Very cool. Yeah. And so it just happens that just a couple weeks ago, Troy and I were in Charlotte, and we filmed a part in Cool as Hell 2, which is a James Balsamo movie. I get my head ripped off by Krampus. And Kristen here is in a James Balsamo movie coming out, The Litch.
That is true. And I am a special girl in The Litch because I play James's wife in The Litch.
Oh,
his
really?
ex-wife, actually. Yes. I'm a very special lady. I love working with James.
Yeah, he's a good guy. But I assume that if you're playing his ex-wife, you're like, that's just enough puns. I can't take it anymore.
Well, when you work with James, the puns come at you so rapidly, it's hard to really fully take in their grandeur. But what James is the king of is he's the king of delivery. He really tries to sell those bad jokes so hard. And he does such a great job most of the time, but you can't always remember him. But what you remember is his face when he's telling you these very regrettable puns.
Which makes it very endearing.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. So how long how long have you known James?
About a year, I would think. I'm not sure quite when he moved to Los Angeles, but I met him shortly after he moved to Los Angeles. Of course, we have a mutual friend, Genevieve Rossi, and Genevieve and I have the same manager, and now James has the same manager. And I met James. I auditioned for his movie. That's how I met him. I auditioned for another part in The Litch, and then he called my manager back and said, I really like Kristen, and I want to work with her. And then he called me up maybe a month or two later, and then all of a sudden I'm playing his ex-wife in his movie. It was quite fun, actually.
Yeah, yeah. So Sheila, besides being James' ex-wife in the movie, what else is about this character we can know about?
Well, James
Without
is
spoiling
so creative.
I guess.
Well, James is so creative. I call him the Christopher Guest of horror. When you work with James, you never know. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get, and so he really is a great director for actors who can really improv, and he trusts the creativity of the actor to make choices. So Sheila, the character, is very bitter, and we do have a child played by the wonderful teen scream queen Rory Ogden. Look her up if you don't know who she is. She is an amazing kid. Really, she's going to be a force to be reckoned with in the genre very soon. She's amazingly talented. So James and I do have a child together in this hypothetical Litch universe. And let me just say, it's the first time I've used a rolling pin as a weapon in a horror film. And I think that's about all I can safely say, because there is photo documentation of me wielding a rolling pin, which was exciting.
Yeah.
Well, the rolling
first time you
pin,
said
it's
use
time
it as a
to
weapon.
stew.
I agree. Yeah. You said first time using it as a weapon in a movie. Does that mean you've ever used one as a weapon in reality?
Oh, well, a girl has to have her secrets. No, but I think many women, if you're like using a rolling pin, to roll out biscuits, or you're rolling out cookies, and you're having a particularly stressful or a hard time. I think the only time I actually ever use a rolling pin is during the holidays, because otherwise I'm just too lazy But, you're like, first of all, when actors have to have a visceral connection to what they're doing, right? So the first thing with the rolling pin is that sort of grating along that hard surface. And that is like this tension build and release, which is really exciting and gratifying. And then there's this idea that you could wax someone with it, which is also exciting. But, a woman who's angry enough could weaponize a purse if she really got pissed off enough. So you don't want pissed off ladies.
Yeah. That's good advice, I think.
I agree. So, Genevieve Ross, you mentioned she was on the show recently. And did you get to? I know she's in the Litch. Did you guys have any scenes together?
We did not have any scenes together, but Genevieve is making huge waves in the indie horror world. I actually went with her to Action on Film Festival, which was in Las Vegas in August. And she and I, it was kind of a horror house party in Las Vegas this past August. We went to Action on Film. I had Seeking Valentina at Action on Film, and she had Attack of the Killer Chickens, the short version of it, at Action on Film. And so we all rented a house in Las Vegas. Me, her, Armin Nasseri, the director of Seeking Valentina, and horror manager Matt Chasen. And we just stayed at this great house in Las Vegas and had a blast at the film festival. She's got a really wonderful, vibrant personality. She's so passionate about horror. It's inspiring just to listen to her talk about who she's worked with, what she's working on. Mm-hmm. Her life is one great big adventure, and I was so happy to meet her and have that film festival experience with her.
Yeah, and she was great on the show, and I'm really looking forward to Attack of the Killer Chickens. Just the name alone is pretty awesome.
Well, I got a private screening of it in Las Vegas because I kept missing it at the actual festival. But it is a hoot and a holler. It's a horror comedy, just like James makes, and she's got an interesting voice in horror that I think is going to really work well for her. I mean, it's amazing what creativity people have, and that's one of the exciting parts about being in horror. Is people really, really are allowed to push edges. And James and Genevieve really do that with the films that they have going out right now.
Yeah. Were you always a horror movie fan?
It's interesting. I should have been. I should have been. I grew up in a haunted house. Like my family. Like seriously, I have my own version of the House of Usher in my family history. Like my family lived in the same place for 100 years, and I grew up in a sort of a haunted house that had to be exorcised a few times. And I should have been maybe a little bit more of a rabid horror fan as a kid, but I really grew into it once I got out of acting school, and I really appreciated it more once I started acting in the horror genre. The emotions that you have to conjure and the reactions and how visceral the horror genre is to acting, because they don't really teach you that in acting school. So I've come to appreciate horror more and more and more. Of course, when I was in film school, I was, we studied Hitchcock. That was a whole week of class in film history class, and from there I have branched out into it. It's been exciting for me.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of movies were you into that made you want to get into movies?
It's interesting. My favorite movie of all time is Amadeus. And that the reason I like Amadeus so much was because I think, Amadeus, of course, is about the conflict between Salieri and Mozart. But it's also mostly about Salieri's conflict with himself and his perceived conflict with God. And I think what people in the arts get trapped in is just going and doing the work to make money, and maybe succumbing to some mediocrity, or really embracing their brilliance. And I love the theme of that film a lot. I like weird Criterion Collection films like Haxan. That was, that older movie about witchcraft.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah.
Was just fascinating to me. I really liked Haxan. I really liked Jodorowsky. That's something James and I actually have in common. We talked. I think one of the last conversations I had with him was about Jodorowsky and the Holy Mountain and just the world of Jodorowsky. So my tastes are eclectic. I think the best movies are the movies that hit you in the heart and hit you in the gut, personally. It doesn't matter if it's a musical or if it's a drama or if it's a James Balsamo film.
Exactly. I said that on the show. To me, some people really get wrapped up in genre, which I just don't really understand. Like, to me, if I like the movie, I like the movie. It doesn't really matter if it's a horror movie or science fiction, or I never get the arguments of people like, for instance, alien, sci-fi, or horror. It's like, what difference does it make? Does it mean you like the movie more or less if it's horror and not sci-fi? It seems kind of just silly to me.
Well, if you think about it, our whole lives are a mix of genres. Like if you were with me yesterday, if you were just hanging out with me yesterday, then seriously, we would have had a procedural cop drama going on, interrogating and trying to figure out who committed the crime and whatever. But, maybe tonight it's a romantic movie. And maybe tomorrow, because according to the weather report, it's going to be raining cats and dogs in LA tomorrow. Perhaps tomorrow it's a cataclysm movie, like The Last Day of the World, because people in LA don't know how to drive in the rain. So your whole life is not a single genre, and I think it's okay to have eclectic taste. And I think one of the most fascinating things is when people who mostly work in the horror genre really genre bend and they genre blend. And that's what Armin Neferi did in Seeking Valentina. Was he actually, Seeking Valentina is a thriller with horror elements and very Lynchian, very much has the tone of a David Lynch movie, except it's a short film. So I find all of that fascinating, and I think there's more to chew on when you stretch and bend that genre the way some of our up and coming indie horror filmmakers are doing.
Mm-hmm. So I would have to mention that because they have an amazing T-shirt for the Litch, but from Atomic Cotton. So you guys can get that. I saw it in person when I saw James in Charlotte. And so what did you think of the design for the T-shirt?
Oh, that is so wicked cool. I mean, that's Instagrammable cool. I took the photo and put it up. No, seriously. No, James has such great promo art, and he has such a great visibility.
I agree.
And the people he works with to create this stuff, it's just really cool. No, I loved it. It was so on Instagram 5 minutes later, the minute I saw it, trust me.
Have you got yourself one yet?
I need to hunt James down. I need to find him and get a shirt from him, but I would totally get a shirt from him. I'm actually going to see him in about a week and a half. I have this little side project now where I don't know if you know this. You've talked to Pat Barnett recently, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was just on last week.
Did he talk to you about his singing?
Yeah. We talked. I listened to some of it. It's very good.
Yeah, that was pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so this is talk about genre bending. I mean, here he is. He's been in the Star Trek franchise. He's in the Coffin movies. But this little known fact about him is that he has this beautiful crooner voice. So one of the things I do for Domain of Horror actually is during Pat's concerts. We're starting to go to Pat's concerts, different people in the horror genre, to come out and support Pat. And we tape interviews, and I do this. It's called Horror Talk with Kristin West. And they're little 5-minute, maybe 10-minute interviews. And we've had Deborah Lamb on, and we've had Dawn Noel on. And so I've been doing that as a side project and just, keeping people abreast of what's happening in the horror community and just showing people different sides of horror stars that they may not know about beyond the, the chopping and the dismembering and the spooking and haunting and all of that fun stuff.
Yeah, oddly enough, right before the show tonight, I was looking you up on YouTube for little something unusual to talk about. And I found the one with you and Deborah Lamb, and I was like, this is so weird because it just had Deborah Lamb on the show, and then Kristen's coming on the show tonight, and then I saw Pat pop up, and I was like, well, he was just on the show last week. I was like, it was just kind of weird to see everyone pop up on the same video.
We're circling you. We're closing in on you. No, it's like, well, people in horror it's a small world. Hollywood is a small world. I mean, we're in LA, we're in Los Angeles, this huge mega city. But really the people that are working in horror, it's a very small, tight-knit, and for the most part, supportive community. People are very welcoming. And it's great when you can make friends and work with friends. And I consider Deborah a friend. I consider Pat a friend. I consider pretty much everybody I interview a friend. And now you're a friend too. So
very nice. I appreciate that.
That's awesome.
Oh. So, and James, of course, is a friend.
Next time I make it there. Yeah, he's a man. But so that was very fun. And by the way, how can people find that?
How can people find Horror Talk? We post it on a Domain of Horror on Facebook. If you just type in Domain of Horror, and then of course it'll be on YouTube. Just type Kristin, Kristin. My last name is West on YouTube. You'll see me. My blondness. Just click on the button and there's a playlist of Horror Talk as well. If you don't want to see it on video, we have a audio only version of it on Podomatic and iTunes. Horror Talk with Kristin West. The next one will be out, I imagine, around March 20th or so. We do a few at a time. We release one, we release them kind of in pockets, for lack of a better word. But I imagine around March 20th, the next one in the series will be out. I have James, of course, confirmed for that one, James Balsamo. I have Chef Nikki Guzman, who also is active in the horror community, confirmed for that. Rena Riffle from Mulholland Drive, also confirmed.
Oh, nice.
And I'm hoping, crossing my fingers, Tony Moran. So
very good.
Yeah, very excited. And it's just a fun experience, for everybody. And I like to do that and talk about what people are up to, because sometimes we don't have time to talk about stuff the way we would want to. And I think, going out to the concert, supporting Pat, and having a relaxed environment to do it in is pretty cool. And it was fun. Deborah, she was fantastic. She was my first actual interview for Horror Talk, so I owe her a debt of gratitude. She was my guinea pig. So I appreciate her very much, and she was so gracious and awesome to clue us in about her English adventure, which she's on right now, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was super nice when we had her on a few weeks ago. Just a really nice person. So, the Litch. How about David Stein as the Litch? Did you get to work with the Litch himself?
I did, but not in the way you would think. Okay. So this is the relationship. James and I consider James a complete friend. Like, so cool. Mm-hmm. Every once in a while, like once every 3 to 4 weeks, I'll get a Facebook message from James. And he'll be like, what are you doing tomorrow? I'm free. What do you need? Can you come help out? So occasionally I've come on his set 2 or 3 times when I wasn't acting and just helped him with logistical stuff, with managing certain things. And I've met him, and the Litch, he's not a monster in real life. He's a super cool guy.
All right. Uh-huh. So it is makeup. They didn't just find someone who was a real life Litch.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing: is that to really, and I've done fantastical creatures. not necessarily full-on monsters in my past, but it's a special skill to play any character that's heavy prosthetics or heavy makeup. And those actors never get enough credit. And I think the biggest example of this right now is Doug Jones in The Shape of Water. He's not nominated for an Oscar, and he's in the most Oscar-nominated film of the year, and he played the creature. I mean, that's an amazing amount of work in the chair, sitting there, having your face fussed with, having your hair fussed with, and then to carry the weight of all of those molds and prosthetics and makeup, and to do that day after day is a lot of work. So I always have tremendous admiration for the men and women who play the monsters in our movies, because I don't think they get enough credit for what they do because people don't necessarily identify them as the actor. They only see the creatures.
Yeah, that seems like a fair point, because he, you know, and he's got to emote all that, you know, just through his body language and stuff in the movie.
Right. No, and that's very hard. And above and beyond that, I would argue a lot of times when you're taking acting for the camera, it's very eye intensive. You know, what's coming through on your eyes, what's coming in the subtle movements of your facial musculature. But, you know, if you're covered in, you know, goop, I don't know what the proper term is. But I mean, if you're covered in a mask,
I think that is the proper term.
It is the proper term. So if you're covered in a mask, like you said, you have to rely on the body movements, but the body movements have to also have a certain subtlety and finesse about them.
Oh, yeah.
That really not everybody is capable of achieving. So I have so much admiration for them. And I know sitting with Dave, he was super cool and really, really, really lovely person to be around.
Mm-hmm. Now, Troy and I grew up, well, you probably didn't know this, Troy and I are brothers, and we grew up playing Dungeons & Dragons, so we knew what a Litch was from D&D. It's a very powerful undead character. So did you know what a Litch was before being in the Litch?
Yes and no. Like, it's one of those, it was one of those monsters, like creatures. I'm like, that sounds familiar. And then I had to look it up. It was sort of like it was there in my awareness, but not quite. So yeah, I did have to look it up. And, you know, it's funny that the Litch, and the way it sounds when you say it, it sounds so icky. Like when I tell people, you know, when people are like, so Kristen, what do you have going on? I'm like, well, the Litch is in post-production. The Litch? Automatically, the Lit. It's one of those titles, like, you have to repeat because it sounds, I mean, it's a great horror movie title because it sounds icky.
Sure. It automatically gets you right there, yeah. So the Litch, that's coming up. But how about Hell's Kitty? Now, maybe I shouldn't. I hate to ask it. Are you in the feature version of Hell's Kitty?
I'm not sure. I know that I'm not sure. I saw a screening of it. I want to say maybe a year and a half ago at Man's Chinese Theater when it was still in its web series form. So I'm not entirely sure, but it was so fun to work on. That was like a Scream Queen sorority day in Long Beach. I mean, there was probably like 30 of us hanging out in a cemetery. And it was nice weather, and we were some of us knew each other, and some of us had only heard about each other. So it was really great fun. And of course, I got to work with so many people that I admire. Chanel Ryan was there, and I worked with her on Circus of the Dead. Max Waza was there. I've met her a few times. She's always lovely. And so many, Sarah Barrett was there. And of course, Sarah Barrett and I are good friends. And I always love working with Sarah, and she's such a bright and fun personality. And yeah, I got to meet a lot of great Scream Queens, and I met Victoria Demare, of course, and she was great too. So it was fun, and everybody was so nice and collegial, and I was just so happy to have the opportunity. And I mean, that's just kind of a fun thing. It's just hanging out in a cemetery with the 30 other girls, just kind of shooting a movie, shooting a web series. It was great.
Yeah. Now I've seen the movie and I know that scene, and so I will say you are in the movie then. Yes.
Oh, well, that's good. You can't control any of that. As an actor, it's one of the things you can shoot a great scene. I actually had a friend kind of dealing with this right now. He actually had a scene in a procedural drama, and he actually ended up on the cutting room floor. And it's never a reflection of you as an actor. For the most part, it's usually just a reflection of, they couldn't make their runtime. Which happens because everything has to happen in a certain time and space. So, yeah, I'm so glad, and it was a cool project to work on, and it was great to meet all those great ladies.
Yeah, it was very fun. I liked it a lot, and it's cool because if you're a horror movie fan watching, you're going to see all these cameos of people you know, and really, some of them are hilarious. I thought speaking of Doug Jones and Bill Oberst as a priest, that was probably my favorite part of the web series and the movie.
Oh yeah, that's just great.
Yeah, it was very fun.
Yeah, that's funny. I remember seeing their scene in the web series, and they did such a good job, and they had such good chemistry together.
Yeah.
And I mean, they looked cute as priests. I mean, they were rocking it as priests. And neither of them do you see as priests very much. I don't know I know Bill has played like cult heads, but I don't think either of them have actually played a real bona fide priest. And I remember I was standing in the graveyard, cemetery actually is the proper term, but I was standing in the cemetery in Long Beach, and here's, just Kelly Maroney kind of floating past and in full on witch garb. And it's like, we're horror people. We do this. It's a natural part of life.
That's very cool. But yeah, it was actually when we had Bill on, he said that he would like to do a spin-off of him and Doug Jones. It's just like instead of a buddy cop movie, it'd be a buddy priest movie. I would totally see that.
Oh my God, I think I could find something for him. Oh my God, I need to talk to Bill about this. When I see Bill again, I may have a buddy priest concept for him. I do screenwrite too, and I do produce as well. Oh my goodness. Oh, this is like my spine is tingling right now with delight because I can so see this working. So Bill, if you're listening, you got my digits, babe. Call me or email me.
Very cool. I'm curious now. I would like to see this. And it was good because usually if you see a priest pop up in a movie in the last 10 or 12 years, automatically they're either going to be like a demon or a pedophile or something horrible. But it was nice to see that they were just, they were kind of bumbling, but they were good guys anyway.
It's interesting the social fascination we have on exorcism in particular. Mm-hmm. And in fact, about, I would say 5 days ago, Pope Francis actually said that the Catholic Church needs more exorcists because according to Pope Francis, there are 500,000 people in Italy who are waiting to have an exorcism, that they're backlogged with exorcism. Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of funny to joke about it, but for many people, this is a real phenomenon that has to be dealt with. And the Vatican is putting money into exorcism schools and symposiums right now in Sicily. I mean, this is wild, real, actual news. But you are so right about your point is that we do kind of keep priests in certain, for better or worse, not exactly genre, but narrative boxes. And it was fun to see Bill and Doug just playing some exorcists, doing their daily work. It was interesting.
Yeah. I think priest, clown, Santa Claus. They're bad news if you see them in a movie. So
that's a good point.
Yeah, that's what should be. It should be a priest, Santa Claus, and a clown that are actually heroes. That would be a good movie too.
That would totally be a good movie. You would never, make those the red herring characters of horror movies.
The little kids are all terrified immediately.
Yeah,
and
like,
they turn out to be the heroes. Yeah.
Exactly.
I part of me wishes this were video right now because my eyes are like bulging out of my head, and I'm staring at my ceiling, going, "Why didn't I think of this before?" Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to write something and then maybe give you a producing credit or something.
All right.
No, but seriously, there is
we'll collaborate.
So much of. Yeah, there's so much of Christmas narrative that's so creepy, even above and beyond the Krampus narrative, which has been really popular. I saw Jason Hull's Krampus the Christmas Devil when it was first out in film festivals a few years ago, and there's this Krampus mania, but there's so much of Christmas that can get really, really creepy. And I think people are starting to appreciate that even more these days. Christmas is not so special and sacrosanct anymore. You can kind of mess with it.
Yeah, there's been some really good Christmas horror just like this last year or so. I really liked Red Christmas with Dee Wallace. And there was another one.
Was it All Through the House? Is that what it was called?
Well, that one was good too, but it was I forget the name of it, but it was with the two kids, and you kind of think it's almost like a kiddie horror movie, and then it really turns dark.
Oh, was that Better Watch Out?
Better Watch Out, yeah.
That was a great movie.
Was surprisingly good, yeah. It's weird. I think there's more horror movies about Christmas than there are about Halloween.
You're right.
Interesting. Well, people feel lonely at Christmas too. Christmas is one of those times of year that if you are not, in really decking the halls and fa la 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 lying, out of control, and you don't necessarily have a family around you, it can be a very bleak and lonely time of year. There's statistical evidence that suggests that even suicides and just death in general spikes around the holidays because people feel not in a community or estranged. So it can be a rough time of year. But I think, one of the great things about horror movies is they are a safety valve for so many pent-up emotions that we have, whether it's anger at Christmas or any other holiday of your choosing. But horror movies really help you to get, when you're sitting and watching a good horror movie and you cringe or you scream or you gasp or something like that, it helps you to get some of that pent-up crap out of your system.
So it's interesting that you kind of got to his horror movies, later as opposed to, grow up and watching them. So it'd be interesting if you have a different outlook on them as to someone who just grew up always watching them since a little kid.
It's hard to say. It's hard to say because I would, I know people who have watched horror films very young, maybe even a little too young, and they can't.
Like myself, right?
and they are scarred by Pet Sematary. I won't name names, but I know a horror director who just scarred because he watched Pet Sematary too soon for him. And so I don't have that relationship with it, but I was always a very sensitive kid, just very sensitive. And so I kind of had to get over that sensitivity to even watch a horror movie. But there's an interesting thing with people watching horror is there's also not only the movie and what the events of the movie that scare you, but the fear of watching the horror movie and what it's going to do to you. I mean, that's a very real thing, I think. And I think a lot of great directors know how to play on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, actually, when I was a kid, the movie itself, I think, is very good, Magic, but the trailer for it was always what scared me. They did little It's Anthony Hopkins, and it's just the mannequin there, the dummy, and it's really short. He does a little poem, and it always really freaked me out because I had the ventriloquist dummy in the house, and just something about that. I still remember that. It's very scary.
Yeah, I remember you hiding away. Like you were 3 or 4 years old at that time.
Yeah. And again, it was more about thinking about the trailer scared me more than the movie.
Oh, yeah.
The idea of I don't want to see that. I'm going to be freaked out.
Well, I remember distinctly one of the movies I watched younger before I hit film school and had all my fancy-dancy film criticism and film history classes. I did watch The Exorcist pretty young. And it's interesting because it did scare me. And I think one of the reasons it scared me so much was because I was raised Catholic. Exorcism is a thing. It is a rite of the Catholic Church. It's something that is done. It is performed. And I knew that the reality of it existed. I was in Catholic school at the time when I watched it. And it affected me more because there was some part of my life being reflected in that movie, or I could understand and sympathize with some of the circumstances of that movie, and having grown up in sort of a haunted house that every few years a priest would come and bless. It sort of hit me a little bit harder than some other horror movies have since. And that's not just necessarily because of my age at the time of watching it, even though I think, younger people are so much more likely to suspend disbelief than older, more cynical people. But really good horror hits you in familiar places, and Hitchcock was a master of that too.
What can you tell us about Spirit Room? Is it what's it about?
Spirit Room is an interesting short film by Adam J. Ung, and the Spirit Room is about a family that buys a house, and then it is discovered that something bad happened in the house. And this film is very interesting because, like Get Out, it takes a different perspective. The lead actress is a really talented actress. Her name is Trish Molina, and she's really talented and really has a great, strong character in this film. And she's Asian American, and there's a taboo in Asian cultures against purchasing houses where bad things have happened in, and you get to see all sorts of drama around the aftermath of them buying this house. And it's very much like Get Out. It's a social commentary piece as well. So it's a very interesting short film, and it's in film festivals right now. It just won an award at the Hollywood Moving Image Film Festival. It won Best Horror Short, and I play one of the ghosts in the house.
Mm-hmm. That's very cool. Where is it? Just at festivals right now?
It's just at festivals right now. I'm not sure what festival it's coming up next at, but it is actively on the film circuit. So I'm sure we'll have more. As I have more dates and times, I'll update that with you and on my Facebook and my Instagram and my Twitter, because it's a really cool movie. Really high production value. Adam is such an interesting filmmaker. He's very planned and very measured and very exact. He films things from all these different angles. Usually, and I'm very much generalizing here, is when you film something, you've got to get a master shot, a wide shot, a medium shot, which is kind of waist up or hips up, and then you have to get a close up. Usually that's the way most Hollywood movies are filmed, master, medium, close. He had so many different angles and setups, and he's just a master of detail. and you can see it in the editing of the film. It's got really you put up the one photo of me as the ghost with that deep red light. He really likes to play with light as well and color in very interesting ways. He takes a lot of risks there because it's not necessarily the most realistic look, but it makes you feel a certain way, which is the interesting part of his filmmaking. And there's some great acting by the film, particularly by Trish Molina. I'm a fan of hers, having worked with her. She has a strong work ethic. And Marissa Bay Briggs, she was great in the film. She's worked on horror titles as well. And there's several great actors in the film. And I'm so glad that we've got this film out in film festivals, and I'm sure it's going to win more awards as well.
Do you know what the how long it is? Because it's short, could be a few minutes, or it could be half an hour or something. I see it here.
I think it's
25 minutes. So, yeah.
It's 25 minutes. Yeah, it's 25 minutes, and you don't feel that. I can tell you, sometimes when you sit in a short, you feel it's like longer than a feature film. You don't feel that
right.
in this film. I'm going to be brutally honest. I've been to a lot of film festivals. Okay, I've seen a lot of short films. I was a judge for this for the Chicago Film Festival. I watched literally 150 of these things.
Oh my God!
I judge the Student Film Festival for the Inland Empire Media Academy in San Bernardino every year. So, you can really steal those 25 minutes if you're not careful. And I didn't feel the 25 minutes. Now, of course, I'm biased and love the film because I'm in it. But, and great people are in it that I love working with. But, hopefully you'll have the chance to see it for yourself, and you can tell me on the down low whether or not you think you felt that 25 minutes or not. But
all right, sounds good.
It's one of those things.
Oh yeah, but the same could be said for some short stories are like that too.
Yeah,
it's only 10 pages long,
but
that's true. Then you get the reverse on certain long movies that just fly by.
Yeah, there's movies that are 3 hours I could watch no problem, and then there's ones you just shut off after a while. Along those lines, this is because I get a lot of screeners for the show, obviously, and some of them you wonder why were they made, or not to name anybody. But the positive side of that, I think, is when you do find something really cool, like you really appreciate good movies much more, and you can overlook some things if there's a lot of you can tell there's a lot of heart in the movie or something about it you might overlook some budgetary things. But does that make you appreciate the good shorts more when you're watching so many?
Oh, sure. I mean, of course you appreciate a good short like you appreciate a great meal, because obviously you're not eating the physical movie, but in the way that you appreciate how the components have come together to have a singular experience. And being both an actress and a producer, my tendency is to have two parts of my brain kind of going at once when I'm watching a film, especially if it's not necessarily a film I'm in. There's my acting brain going, okay, am I in it? Am I feeling it? And then there's the producing part of my brain going, wow, that cost a good bit of money. Or I wonder how they achieved that on their stated budget. Or that was really inventive. Oh, what I look at films like that in both ways constantly, because it's about the whole experience of a film. And that's the one thing I think filmmakers often get in the trap of, is sometimes they overprivilege one thing or two things instead of focusing on the film as a whole. They may focus so much on shooting on a red camera or a black magic camera, but if you don't really like that well, and you don't have the mise-en-scène, the set decoration, if you don't put time in filling that frame, that's not going to do you much good. Or if you have locations that are not necessarily, they're serviceable, but they're not great, then it kind of dilutes the process. Or you may put tons of money into a camera and tons of money into art department and tons of money into costumes, but if you don't hire actors who are able to bring that part to life effectively, you're not going to meet your goal either. So part of being a good producer, in my view, is making sure that the project is funded so that no one part of the film stands out badly. That's one thing I always. Yeah, that's one thing I always focus on.
Mm-hmm. How did you get involved in the producing end of movies? And I mean, you do a lot of different things. You act, you produce, you edit, direct. Which one of those is your favorite too? Like, if you had to just choose one aspect, or do you just like all of them?
I love all of them. I would say I started acting when I was 7 years old. So acting is a very deep childhood dream and place of mine. And I went to the University of Texas. My bachelor's degree is in radio, TV, film. And my last series of coursework at UT was in producing, and in particular line producing, which is making the budgets and schedules for films. And I was actually mentored by the former VP of Disney Film, Mimi, who still works for the University of Texas, right across the street from Warner Brothers studio here in town. So I really learned how to be a producer from him and the coursework that I took at UT. And I decided, I went to acting school right after that. I went to American Academy of Dramatic Arts, left after a year. And then I really decided, and this was around the time of the writer's strike. It was a sort of a strange time to be in LA, because all of a sudden the scripted TV shows and the scripted movies stopped, and there was a glut of reality TV going on at that time to make up for the shortfall in scripts because the writers were striking. I said, you know what, I can make my own stuff. And so my first partner and my oldest partner has been Army Nasseri, and I used all those skills that I gained at UT to help him make Seeking Valentina, and we're working on more films right now, in fact. And so I found that for me, because acting is one of those things where you only have power pretty much over your preparation. Did you memorize the script before the audition? Did you get to your audition on time? And then, you're going up against 100, 200, 300 other people for the same job. And you can feel a little bit disempowered by that. So producing, you're making all of the decisions pretty much. You and the director are making all the decisions that are really important. So I felt like that was a way to really make a creative impact and feel a little bit more in control of my destiny in the arts as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, you worked on some reality TV, right?
Yes, I did. I was on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and I met Carlton Gebbia and Yolanda Foster, Bella and Gigi's mom. Bella and Gigi Hadid, that's their mom. So they were both lovely. I have to tell you, they were both really sweet, really kind ladies. Carlton is balls to the wall. She is blunt. She is sassy. She knows what she wants. She's not afraid of letting you know what she wants, and I really admire her for that. And Yolanda is just a class act, and it was fun to get to meet them and to be on the show with them.
Yes. So you were just on the show? Did you do any work like producing or directing, or writing, or anything, or crew of any kind?
No. What had happened was that Carlton is a Wiccan. She is that is her religion. She is a Wiccan, mm-hmm. And that was often used against her in the show by the other housewives. So they devoted an episode to Carlton's spirituality, so that she could kind of explain herself and her beliefs in her own words. And I actually got invited to be on the show because Carlton was a frequent visitor at this store in West Hollywood that that I knew of, and that the store owner didn't want to appear on camera. She was camera shy. So they asked me if I could take Carlton through the store with Yolanda for Real Housewives. I said, yeah, I'd be honored to.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so it was an interesting episode to do, and really to hear Carlton in her own words, and to meet Yolanda, and it's interesting. You never quite envision that as part of your life.
Right.
I watched Real Housewives. I wasn't as invested as some people are in the series, but I knew of it. It's a cultural force. I would watch it from time to time, and then all of a sudden, here comes Carlton, and you're talking to her, just like you and I are pretty much talking right now. It was interesting.
When you talked about her being a Wiccan, is that anything you were interested in at all?
LA is like this alternative spirituality mega center. I have hung out with yogic gurus. I have hung out with Wiccans. I have hung out with people that just practice meditation. So I've been around a lot of different spiritual communities. And being an actress in the horror genre, you kind of have to know some of that stuff. If you want to play a witch, you need to know what witches do and how they do it and why. So, I've had to read, magic spell books and learn about that. And I've had to read about, things about ghosts. So I think to really work in the genre, especially if you're working on projects that are fantastical in nature, what is a lich? What is this? What is that?
Right.
To give that some sort of truth and veracity, you have to have an intellectual curiosity. And one of the things is that you have to not be afraid necessarily of knowing. And one of the things about the way that witchcraft, Wicca, paganism, neo-paganism, whatever you want to call it, is portrayed sometimes as sort of hokey and sort of corny. But, this is something that many people practice and is very real to them and very real part of their lives. So I think that, a good actor, a good actress, and a good screenwriter and a good director will really try and find the truth of those people's lives in those circumstances. Definitely. I developed, such a curiosity about this that people would bring me their screenplays about this topic, anything around witchcraft, Wicca, paganism. And I would, I was doing a little bit of script doctoring for a while for a director that had a script about the Salem witch trials. And we really had to fact check some of that stuff because the way the witch trials panned out in Europe was very different from the way they panned out in the U.S. So, you really, one of those things is, as an actor, you have to be curious, because if you're not curious and you make assumptions about people and their motivations, you're going to get very one-dimensional, untruthful acting.
Just real quick, a couple years ago for Halloween, I went on a walking tour in Salem, which was very interesting. Went to all the graveyard cemeteries, as you say, and just like for people, most people think that witches were burned at the stake, but none of them were burnt in Salem. They were all hung or pressed.
Right.
Yeah, there's like I said, there's a lot of things people just assume, but it's not necessarily true.
Right, and and there was a practical consideration too, because I was looking at the script from a producer's lens, and I was looking at it from a more of a lens of what's actable and what's not. And this particular person had put some burning in there that was just not factually historically holding up. I said, The Burning, first of all, is going to be expensive. Second of all, it's really not based in history, at least stateside. Now, Europe's a different story. But no, I think you have to really, one of the things that we have in the culture is that we need to invest more time in appreciating history. And some things that happen in history were truly awful and regrettable. And but we can still learn from them as well. And that's one of the things that I feel lucky is that I'm constantly learning about something.
It's fun. It's or not even fun, but it's interesting to learn about new things. Fun's a weird word. So how can you find Kristin West online? How can you find you?
My website is Kristin West, Kristin West, WEST.net. That's my homepage. On Twitter, I'm at the Kristin West. Instagram at the Kristin West. And Facebook, my page is Kristin West Actress. And you can find me there. And just type in Kristin West on IMDb as well if you're curious about what I've worked on. And, that's where you find me.
Very, very good. Anything interesting coming up that we didn't talk about?
Well, we talked about horror talk. So I think pretty much we got it all pinned down. I do co-host a wonderful show on LA Talk Radio called What Women Want. Now, this is not a horror show.
Sure.
It is geared towards women, and obviously from the title, but it's about what women want in life, their hopes, their dreams. We've had some great people on this show. We've had Jenna Wolfe, the former Today Show anchor. We've had Steve Dorff, Grammy-winning songwriter. Amy Newmark from Chicken Soup for the Soul. She's a publisher of that book series. And we just had Leslie Zemeckis on yesterday, and she was amazing. Leslie Zemeckis, wife of Robert Zemeckis. She has her own documentary film coming out, Mabel Tiger Trainer. So if you're interested, we've had Bill Oberst on the show a few times, and we've had horror people on the show come on as well for various film festivals. So we run the gamut of anything that women would want to talk about. And honestly, I've had confessions from men about the show who listen secretly. They say, it's not all girl stuff, that a man can listen to the show and enjoy the show as well. So it's on latalkradio.com. It streams live Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific. And there's also replays of it available on LA Talk Radio, iTunes, Google Play, and we also have a YouTube channel. If you type in my co-host name, her name is Judy Goss, Goss, you'll see the YouTube channel, and we have organized playlists of all of our latest and greatest episodes.
Very cool. And like you said, that men can listen to it. I do like other things besides horror, so it doesn't have to be horror based for me to watch it or enjoy it as well.
Right, and some of the conversations though inevitably steer towards things that make you go. You know how I talked about how the Litch, you have a visceral reaction to the word the Litch. Sometimes stuff comes up, and it's important to talk about it. And you never know. Like I said, you never know what's going to turn up in people's lives. And we have great guests on that show, like you have on your show. And it's always it's a conversation just like this. It's not a question or answer. It's not necessarily like broadcast. It's not The View.
Right.
It's got its own sort of unique vibe, and we're really excited to have our guests and talk to them. And I'm really happy to be a part of it. I've been doing it for a little over a year now.
Oh, well, excellent. Well, I hope you. How many nights is it on?
It's on Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific, but you can pretty much catch it anytime because LATalkradio.com archives all the episodes. and they're also on iTunes and Google Play and YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on. It's been a lot of fun to talk to you.
Well, thank you so much, Neil and Troy, for having me. I always love to dish on James and all my other friends in horror. So I'm sure a lot of people's ears are burning this evening, and I really appreciate the opportunity. And you all have the best fans, by the way. I appreciate so much love on Twitter and Facebook from your fans. You have the best fans. Y'all are really lucky. So thank you, everybody who is listening tonight. Y'all are the best.
Yeah, very cool. Honestly, we do really appreciate the community, and it's a big part of doing the show. We have a lot of fun. Like around Christmas time, we do Secret Satan, and people send in gifts, and then I wrap them up and resend them out, and it's just a lot of things like that. It's that's part of the fun of doing the show. Is and then I get to meet a lot of them at the conventions, and it's been great. So I'm glad
that sounds awesome. Be sure to hit me up around Christmas time.
All right, well, we want you a part of the Secret State.
Yes, please.
All right, definitely will. I'll remember. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. All right, and we'll love to have you back sometime.
Awesome. I would love that. You all are too cool for school. You have a great night.
You as well.
Hi, this is Anthony P. Ferrante, director of the Sharknado Quadrilogy, and you're listening to Without Your Head.